Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. So let's talk about the first quarter earnings call from WWE, which I sat down and listened to personally, which also meant that I missed a lot because I was taking notes and I was also eating dinner. So, so some things, but I made sure that some of the stuff that I skipped were kind of like the boring nooks and crannies of the budgetary stuff. Like a lot of the Kristen stuff, I kind of skipped over that. Christina stuff, I kind of scripted. But there was some other stuff in here that was still pretty interesting. So they put out a at a glance piece. It's kind of like an 8-page presentation about how they're doing. Let's go through that first because it basically talked a lot about TV ratings and stuff like that. So we learned from this at a glance piece, which came out before the earnings call, that Raw's viewership is down 17% from first quarter 2020 to first quarter 2021. SmackDown is down 12%. Raw's viewers is down more than the USA Network's average, which is 14%, but it is down also more than the top 25 cable companies, which is only down 11%. SmackDown's viewers, however, are down less than the Fox average of negative 44%. Negative 44%. And it's less than the top 4 network stations, which are down nearly 20%. Their social media followers are up on Facebook by 40, down on Twitter by 3, and up on other by 6. Their global hours viewed, AVOD, which is ad-based video on demand, is up from the fourth quarter 2020. So fourth quarter 2020 was, I forget the exact figures, but it's up from that, and it's still pretty high. So let's talk about this the viewership. First quarter 2020, most of that was with crowds, obviously. There's also been some cord cutting since then. So that's something to take into account. But Raw's ratings are not good. Obviously, they want to do better and they can do better. But there's only so much you can do with the empty arena stuff, which I believe started in late February, early March 2020. So you had that problem. Then but it's year over year. Who knows? Is it ever going to go back up? Probably not. You're probably going to look at but the goal here is to beat the averages, which Raw is not doing. You know, Raw, the point here is if everybody's going down, you want to go down slower than everybody else. And everybody's going down. So that's really the overall goal here. That's something a lot of people are going to miss out on, is that there's negatives on every station. Everybody's going down. So the question is, how much and how fast? So Raw does need to do something because they're going down faster than the USA average. And USA literally almost has nothing else on the show. On the network. Well, they probably will end up with sports now, but, who knows? All right, so that's the at a glance. There's only like 8 pages of graphs. Hopefully, I remember to put the graphs in the in the thing. But when they start doing the actual presentation, there is no graphs, so it's probably just gonna be looking at the blank screen. All right, so the presentation started with Vince McMahon, who says that this is the best management team that they've ever put together, and that he's excited about the future. And he really didn't say anything after this. After his initial comments, he just basically disappeared. He went away. He just said, okay. He said what he had to say and he left. All right, so Nick Khan pretty much took over. And he says that, there's a premium on live content. And they found some new revenue streams. And then he gave a breakdown of how Amazon is doing with the NFL. That the NHL and the NFL rights fees are increasing even as linear TV ratings go down. So this was an immediate statement saying that for people, and of course people still asked about the ratings, but this is an immediate statement that he's saying to people: you're watching TV ratings. The rights fees for these companies are going up, even though the ratings are going down. That's the important thing. That's what we should be focusing on as a company, is what he's saying. We should be focusing on our rights fees, not exactly on our TV ratings. And he says that media companies now want the linear and streaming rights, and that there is no longer a desire to split them. There used to be a different company can get linear rights, which is direct TV, cable, broadcast, or whatever, and a different company can get the streaming rights because they're two different products. He's saying that now people are putting them together, and this creates an opportunity for growth for WWE. Now, he was asked a question about this later, about how can you even do that, because a lot of your contracts are locked up for another 3 or 4 years. And he's basically said, yeah, but not internationally. Like we can get away with this internationally. Like, yeah, NBC is locked Peacock, in for several years now, but that's only in the United States. What about Canada? What about England? What about China? What about India? There's other partnerships in other countries that we kind of want to do, and those are potential revenue streams. So he said that he touted how big WrestleMania did on Peacock, and that they were thrilled with the numbers that they saw, and so was NBC. He was asked a question about this later, and he was asked about year over year, how does WrestleMania 37 compare to WrestleMania 36 as far as viewership and all that different stuff. And he said that he was asked by NBC not to share that data. Likely it has something to do with their ads and all that type of stuff, and about exposing NBC's business and all that kind of stuff, which is fair. They're both publicly traded companies, but they still have things that they would rather not share because it can give one team a competitive advantage or something like that. Like it would suck if because I feel like I need to explain this. If WWE brought great value to NBC, let's put it like that, and they brought great value to NBC, greater than what they was able to do on their own, right? Then that helps WWE in the future. That they can say always, hey, look at all this money we made NBC. Sure, we might not be able to make that money by ourselves, but this is what we can bring to your platform, Amazon or Apple or Disney or whatever, in the future. So NBC was like, just keep that to yourselves. Don't talk about that. And since they're very early in the relationship anyway, there's no real point to even discussing it. So he also said that they're looking to mirror the WWE Network deal to international markets, like I just said, similarly to China, to India, to UK. He talked about the success of Tencent in China and the different things like that. And then he said that they found some new streams of income. He started talking about gambling, DraftKings and stuff like that. They've signed contracts with recently. But he also talking about the NFTs. Now, I'm probably the only libertarian on planet Earth that doesn't smoke weed and doesn't know shit about crypto. So I can't tell you what an NFT is. I looked it up, but I don't understand things that don't have, that's not physical. Like if you say, well, I want a bar of gold. Okay, it makes sense. You have a bar of gold in your house. If you say you bought gold, okay, you physically have gold. When you say you have an NFT, what does that even mean? And they say it's on the blockchain. Like, what the fuck is that? I have no idea. Like, these things are not physical. They're internet things. But I did do some research because I like to try to explain things for people who don't have it. So I looked at some various sources to try to get an idea of what an NFT is. And what they're called are non-fungible tokens. They represent a tangible and unique item, such as a digital asset. They have distinguishing info, which prevents fakes. They cannot be divided into smaller pieces. They cannot be destroyed. They cannot be replicated or replaced. And they cannot be exchanged for one another. And each ticket has a different has specific information such as the purchaser's name, date of event, the venue, etc. And they put out all of these NFTs on the Undertaker, and he talked about how they sold out. And I definitely looked, and they definitely did sell them joints out. And he talked about how the silver package sold out in like 35 seconds. He said it was that people were on it. There was a lot of people who jumped on the whole Undertaker NFT thing, and so I looked it up because I didn't see that many people talking about it. So I didn't know again, I don't know shit about crypto. So I looked it up, the Undertaker NFTs. And I saw that there were 4 packages. There was the bronze package, which is $100. Then there was the silver package, which was $1,000, which got you an NFT, signed side plates, which fit the WWE Championship. So if you were going to buy a WWE title, you could put those signed Undertaker name plates on there. There was a $5,000 gold tier, which would get you 2 tickets to a Raw or SmackDown in 2020 or 2022. and a signed Undertaker Legacy Championship, or an urn if you want a signed urn. The platinum tier, which started at $10,000, was an NFT of the Undertaker, 2 front row tickets to WrestleMania 22 and 23, plus VIP access and hotel accommodations. But this was all done through auction. So the platinum tier got up to like $100,000, and I think the gold tier got up pretty high too. So these were done via auction, and they talked about how they're going to do more of those, and that's crazy. I know that NFTs is kind of a craze right now. I have no idea why people are going nuts for this stuff, but they are. And I'm glad they made a pretty penny off of it. I think Undertaker was a great guy to do it with because he's so beloved. And if they were able to make that much money off Undertaker, wait until they start doing Rock stuff and Austin stuff, and that stuff should make some real gangbusters. But who knows? Maybe they'll do one per year, one set of NFTs per year, or maybe 2 per year. Who knows? Nick Khan also talked about the original content via WWE Studios, and he talked about they sold an anime to Crunchyroll, which after this came out, it was up on comic book resources that WWE has. There is no distinguishing information yet about what this anime will be, but it is in WWE Anime, which has been sold to Crunchyroll. And that sounds like it ought to be interesting. Like, I know that there's a Rey Mysterio cartoon being made right now. So, of course, you would think if it's an anime, are they going to use some of the Japanese superstars? Is it going to be like a Shinsuke Nakamura or an Asuka featured anime? Saray or something in the anime? Or are they going to go John Cena, Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin anime? It's possible. I definitely think whatever it is going to be child friendly. So it's not going to be like some shonen stuff, even though some shonen is child friendly, like My Hero Academia. But I'm thinking it's going to be probably comedic in nature, probably heavily comedic in nature, because that's WWE's thing now. They really bury you in comedy. So I think that's what they're going to do. This ought to be interesting, and I'm going to keep my eye open for this. This looks like it's going to be a big fucking deal, because if WWE can make an anime, that's going to be a huge market. This is a big deal because there's a lot of crossover between the comic book fans, wrestling fans, anime fans, video game fans. There's a lot of, like, wrestling is one of those things, and you can pat WWE on the back for pioneering it, crossing over into other marketing streams, into video games and posters and art and all that kind of different stuff. That it opens up an incredible amount of opportunities. So if they can get into the anime space, that could be pretty dope. He touted the success of Young Rock, which I didn't know was a WWE studio. I thought it was The Rock doing it, but I guess it's a co-promoted thing. He talked about how Stone Cold Steve Austin had the highest rated biography on A&E in years. And that's while there was a drop off between that and the Most Wanted Treasures show, that the Most Wanted Treasures show retained about 70% of the audience. So that was a pretty big deal. Then he passed it over to Stephanie, who talked about touted their social media success for WrestleMania, which I don't want to get into the numbers, and it's a staggering. I think it was like 1.1 billion views for WrestleMania and all that kind of stuff. 71 different trends on Twitter and different social media. I don't want to get into that stuff. She said that, while Raw's ratings have stayed steady, there was a huge spike in the Hispanic demographic, about 31% increase just because Bad Bunny was on the product. 31% increase in Hispanic viewers in the demographic, of course, because of Bad Bunny. And they want, of course, to use more celebrities and Logan Paul and all that type of stuff. Then he starts talking about the customized content, such as the Night Panther from Old Spice, which features Rick Bugenhagen, R-Truth, Drew Gulak, and Akira Tozawa. The success of that. She also touted the success of the Grit and Glory series that Samoa Joe was hosting. Now that Samoa Joe's been fired, good luck with that now. But they probably can just replace him with somebody else. But the Grit and Glory was basically a short interview series that Samoa Joe was doing, I think, for General Motors. or was it Ford? It was one of the car companies, and he basically talked about how successful that those ventures were, and that for the brand, those things are very important because they can make these customized contents, and that's the best thing, is that they can have this ability to make customized content, and that's great for them because they own all the intellectual property and all that type of stuff. So the CFO, Christina, she talked about why revenue was down, because revenue was down 9%, and she said basically it is due to no live events, and this is also year over year. This is year over year, so they kept stressing that because people are like, "Oh, is it not down 9% from last quarter?" It's like, no, it's down 9% year over year. There were crowds most of the first quarter last year. There were no crowds this year. There was no Saudi event this year. So that's one of the big things that led to the ratings, not just to the ratings, but also to the what's the names going down, the revenue going down. But she said that they maintain that they have the #1 action figures at Walmart, and that they have been putting out customized Stone Cold Steve Austin championship belts, which are to celebrate the 25 years that he's been on the show, and that production costs have, of course, gone up due to the Thunderdome. And last year, when they were running shows out of the Performance Center, and it cost more, obviously, to run the Thunderdome than it did in the Performance Center. So they were spending more money year over year than they had been before. So all of that made perfect sense. There was no reason to get caught up in the muck and the owibidas and all that crap. All right, so they started getting asked a bunch of questions. The first question was about sponsorships and about questions about how WWE might be under monetized in sponsorships, and Stephanie agreed and said that it's easier to engage with sponsorships because WWE owns the intellectual property. And then Nick Khan said that all the sponsorships you see on NBC and Peacock are sponsorships that WWE is involved in. But of course, they're going to try to do more. When they start talking about ratings and storyline, was the second question. Khan says he looks at ratings the same way buyers do, and that WWE's ratings are robust, but there are challenges, and that linear TV is very tough because live events are down. But he has a belief that things will turn around in the future, and that when they start touring again and doing live events, things will be more important. The third question was about Peacock and comparing WrestleMania 36 to WrestleMania 37. This is when he said that he can't discuss it, but NBC was very happy with what they delivered. Question 4 was about NXT, the positives and negatives in NXT and AEW, and whether they think about AEW. Tony Khan, Nick Khan said that everything is competition. That's their view. They don't consider AEW the only thing that's competition. They say, hey, some guy choosing not to watch TV at all is also competition. You sitting on your phone is competition. And that, he said that as much as they focus on their own content and believe that and when it came to NXT, they believed that the NHL and NBC relationship was going to end. And that, there was some kind of gray areas there about when he was asked this question in the fourth quarter earnings call and how things have changed, but they were basically asked to put NXT on Tuesday, so they did. And they said that to them it seemed to be more efficient when they were brought the idea of moving NXT, because obviously they could have moved it to Thursdays, they could have moved it to Saturdays, they could have moved it to anywhere. But they said that it was basically an efficiency thing that they chose Tuesdays, so that you could have pay-per-view on Sunday, then Monday Night Raw, Tuesday Night NXT, and to have that trio of shows, the Sunday show, Monday show, Tuesday show, and which was weird. So then somebody asked about other opportunities, like when it comes to streaming services and other products, who else is interested? And basically he says that Nick Khan was basically asked about the industry. It's basically an industry question. Like, okay, we see that Amazon's in the game and Disney's in the game, and Peacock is also in the game. You guys have signed with them. Who else is an option? And basically Nick Khan talked about Apple TV. He says that Apple TV basically wants to be able to perform live events, and he stressed multiple times that live TV or live events are a big there's a premium on those, and that's what a lot of services want. I remember getting into an argument with some guy on Twitter who kept saying that wrestling doesn't need to be live, and that there's nothing special about live TV. And I just stopped responding because the guy didn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Clearly, like he's incredibly like when people are so off the rails, you just kind of be like, eh. But it was a healthy conversation up to that point because he was talking about TV ratings and stuff like that, and I'm like, well, there's a difference. These companies are going to keep shelling out money because it's live entertainment. And they're like, oh, they don't care. It's like, yeah, they do. And that's why they keep giving people money. That's why, you can see that TNT was so happy with AEW, even though AEW wasn't doing that great at first. It was, hey, we have locked down something that we can show live. Same thing with Vice TV and MLW. Impact is another one, even though Impact was mostly taped and so was Ring of Honor. But there's also that option of if we wanted to run this thing live, we could, and there's a premium on that. And, Nick Khan really stressed that live TV matters, and that there's probably going to end up being a lot of wrestling companies that are going to end up jumping on. And he talked about that too, that there's going to be some consolidation in these markets, that you're going to start seeing people die out. So question 6 was about WWE being prevented from selling the rights. And he says from Raw and SmackDown, sure, because they're signed up to those networks. But till about 2024 or whatever. But he said internationally, no. I think I went over this. And those international deals are being discussed. So the 7th question was financial, a question about the Saudi shows. They didn't do any Saudi shows, so obviously that was revenue they didn't have. The question 8 was media costs, which Christina said that, okay, well, Peacock brought little rights and licensing over the last 2 weeks of March, and that we will see how much they make off of media costs from Peacock over the next quarter. But they did have an increase in TV production and personnel due to the Thunderdome, virtual fan technology, operating expansion, stuff like that. And it says second quarter 2021, we'll see high costs as they, of course, moved from the PC to the Thunderdome year over year. So question 9 was about touring and residency. Basically, are you going to go to a partially touring, like when touring begins? Is it going to be partial touring, or is it going to be full touring all the time? And Christina basically says that they haven't decided when they're going to go back on tour, but it'll likely be second half of 2020. And that she assumed that when they do go back to touring, that it will be full time. That half residency is inconvenient financially. Basically, it's inconvenient to have a building that you rent out and then also be out on tour buying different buildings, that renting different buildings, right? So you have a long lease here, and then you have smaller leases elsewhere. So basically, when they go on tour, they're going in full. That's a Nick Khan decision too. That he also said that basically when we decide to have crowds and go on tour, that's what we're doing. We're going back full time, no partial. So Nick Khan was asked the 10th question, about streaming benefits, and they said who will benefit from the streaming services and all this type of stuff. And he said basically that if you have a history of performing and bringing in high content, and you will succeed. Companies that are fairly new will be kind of left out. And this one, he started talking about there's going to be some consolidation in the markets, that you're probably going to start seeing a lot of companies go under because they can't sell their content to other places, or their streaming service will likely get swallowed up by a bigger company, which is essentially what happened to WWE. Is they saw that everybody else, like Disney and everybody else, was getting involved. There's only so much money to go around when it comes to these streaming services. And so they decided to, hey, we'll just partner up with somebody to get out of this shit, rather than people saying, I can't pay $10 for this, $12 for Netflix, $12 for this, and $10 for this. We just get rid of all of it. So the 11th question was about e-commerce or WWE Shop. And Christina says she believes that they brought fans to the shop permanently with the new title belts and the new launch of Legends series items. That, the historic superstars and the brick and mortar business has sort of changed. But Nick Khan says, hey, we're still very bullish, which for people who don't know about Wall Street, that means that you're positive on something. Bearish is negative. But they're bullish on brick and mortar because live events is the lifeblood of WWE. And he really wants to get back to live events, but, you can't really do that right now. The question 12 was that did they get all of the revenue from Peacock in the first quarter? And Christina said yes. And then Nick Khan joked about being undefeated against the weather. So, question 13 was about NFTs, about opportunities and how to maximize NFTs. Nick Khan said that, Vince's genius was years ago owning all the intellectual property to the characters. And that really can pay off in being able to sell NFTs because they own all the intellectual property. And it makes it a good long-term investment to owning your own intellectual property. So then basically it was somebody asked question 14 was about local talent and overseas touring and overseas relationships. And Nick Khan says that they had plans for overseas events that were delayed by COVID, not anything they got rid of, but things that they just have to delay doing. And he touted once again the Superstar Spectacle, which did 5 times its normal rating in India, with unheard of talent. He really stressed that these were talents that most Americans had never heard of, and most Indians certainly have never heard of. And Christina said that with international, that they're trying to take advantage of being a global brand, and that they're looking for international partners to deepen their penetration into these countries, like Tencent in China. I'm not as many people are upset about the whole thing with Saudi Arabia. I'm definitely more concerned about their dealings with China. I don't know. That's just me though. Like I don't really care that much about Saudi Arabia. I do care about what they're doing with China. Anyway, question 15, Peacock and sponsorships. Stephanie McMahon says any sponsorships on Peacock is with their help. Basically, they answered this question already. Question 16 was about investment increases. Christina gave like a real confusing answer about they're a high incremental business when it comes to investment. It was financial mumbo jumbo, and I didn't have time. I didn't want to rewind it and listen to it 100 times. It doesn't matter anyway. I don't think that anybody cares about that kind of the nooks and crannies. And the last question was about NFTs, NFT valuations and crypto. Nick Khan basically said when they started doing the crypto thing, they had no idea about it, but now they've hit the books. They've learned as much as they can. Now they feel like they know their audience and they know the market, and that's why they feel comfortable doing crypto and NFTs and stuff like that. So that was essentially it, the long and the short of it. It was very interesting. So we learned a lot about, some of the ventures they're trying to jump into, different people that they're looking at, international markets and stuff like that. The whole anime thing, the NFTs, all interesting stuff that they're trying to jump into. And I'm interested in seeing where this stuff goes. And they also gave some nice red meat to the dirt sheets with the whole hey, when we start going on tour, we're going on tour full time. There's no halfway crooks when it comes to this thing. And they said that they're looking at doing full time for second half 2021. I don't know what that means. Maybe third quarter. That would be after SummerSlam, I believe. So, because I think SummerSlam is the end of the second quarter. Because WrestleMania is 4, and then August is SummerSlam. So yeah, that would be the end of the second quarter. So maybe it'd be Survivor Series around that area. They should be running full shows. I know that UFC continues to run full events. They run full events in Texas and in Florida and different places like that. Maybe WWE will follow suit. Maybe they won't. Who knows? I think they probably won't because they still have performers that are susceptible to the virus. You still have, your Roman Reigns and some of these guys who have conditions and stuff like that, or people who are just worried about the environment. Some people are not so happy about Florida being open. And you don't want to have a large number of your talent basically back out of the show again because you decided to run in Texas or you decided to run in Florida. UFC doesn't have that problem because they don't really have weekly TV. right? And then once a guy fights, he fights once and then he disappears for 6 months. If you want Roman Reigns to be on TV every week, you probably should have a sterile environment for him, and you can guarantee a sterile environment with the Thunderdome, not exactly with going to Texas or whatever every week. And and I understand. Well, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to subscribe to the channel via Subscribestar, you can do that in the description. You can also follow me on Twitter, or you can also send cash via the Cash App. Make sure you hit that like button. Help for the algorithm. The views and the likes help with the algorithm, help people get more of this content. And always follow the hashtag 3count commentaries to see what I'm up to. And I appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you guys later.